The Mahindra Verito has been relaunched recently with a major facelift. Now, as far as the original Logan goes, this design was in any case in major need of refreshing, and so any refresh was always going to be welcome as long as it didn't look forced.
My expectations were frankly not very high. Having said that, I have to say I'm pretty impressed by what's actually been done. The entire hood, the front grille, the headlights, all of that have been majorly tweaked. They look very different now and give the car a whole new character. Especially the front grille, which even though it looks a little Kia-like, does complement the rest of the Mahindra range. It looks like a Mahindra now. The way that the chrome also sort of complements this particular element here in the headlight looks pretty smart. The metalwork in the hood looks pretty smart too. Come around to the side and of course then the old Logan instantly emerges and sort of grabs your attention. They've tried to do a little bit, especially this side molding that's been added on. I'm not sure I like it very much. It makes it look a little plasticky, but at least there is an effort to make it look different. There are roof rails as well that sort of make the car look different too. At the back is where the big change, which I think really helps, has come in, because the problem with the Logan always was that it was too sort of flat at the back and looked very dated. Now they've actually gone ahead and done a little bit of metalwork, added a nice complementary bit of chrome that actually complements the design too. It breaks up the monotony of the rear, looks pretty smart, and a new tail light as well, which complements all of that. So the car looks pretty modern and fairly contemporary at the back, which again I didn't see coming at all. So at the end, of course, the question you have to ask yourself is, are you a Verito man?
Well, alright, you don't have to answer that. But funny commercials aside, the Verito is now looking pretty attractive, isn't it? On the inside, the car retains its spacious cabin with fairly comfortable seats and a durable overall feel too. The dash area looks kinda attractive, though we have to say a bit overdone or overfinished with too many textures and colors. The inbuilt music system though is appealing. The other plus is that the power window switches have now moved to the door. A very big improvement in fact. Overall, when compared to the Logan, the new Verito is definitely more plush. It is still powered by the Renault engine range of course, the petrol with 75 bhp on tap, and the diesel workhorse, which is just a very capable and hardy motor, the DCI that we all know well.
Now the car still drives exactly how it used to, just like the Logan in fact, and so nothing's changed there as such. It's pretty decent on handling, the suspension's alright too, and of course this engine, very responsive and pretty fun to drive. The only thing I think that needs to be improved is the way the clutch feels. There's too much play in it, it's too loose, and it doesn't feel like it's connected to anything, and that's a little disconcerting. The steering, a little bit too tight, a little too hard. I like stiffness, of course, you know this, but this one feels a little bit tight, and some people might not like that, especially when you compare to a car like the Dzire, for example, which just is so loose and easy to use. You need something to be a little bit somewhere in the middle of that. Now the cabin has been refreshed, it looks refreshed, the plastics seem alright too, but some of those plastics, especially here in the top end version, look a little bit overdone.
So it's basically a formidable, no-nonsense package, isn't it? A quick glance at the prices tells you it's actually pretty attractively priced too. These prices are ex-showroom Delhi. So now it is best to stop looking at the Verito in isolation. Its main rival is the Maruti Suzuki Swift Dzire, the segment's bestseller. The problem here is cabin space and the lack of a solid feel. Otherwise, the Maruti is better priced and it has the Maruti stamp to boot. Next up is the Toyota Etios sedan, also well priced, and while basic, it's backed by the rock-solid Toyota brand name and legendary reliability. The Verito though is a bit more comfortable. The Tata Indigo Manza is not really a fair comparison since it is way bigger, but it is still in the same price range. If space is your thing, the Indigo Manza has won the round by a mile. If not, the Verito will hold its own. Hyundai's ridiculously dated accent is on the verge of phase out, and it doesn't really merit our attention anyway. So all in all, the Mahindra Verito is looking like quite the segment stalwart, isn't it? Surprise, surprise.
But what if you wanted something a little bit more premium, and yet you didn't want to enter the C+ range of cars, which means spending 8 to 10 lakh rupees. I'm talking about cars like the new Ford Fiesta, the Honda City, the Hyundai Verna, the Volkswagen Vento. Skoda Rapid. Well, what if you didn't want to spend as much as that, but yet you wanted something more spacious, a little bit more premium than the cars we've just talked about? Well, then there is a little bit of a stiff competition coming in to cars like the Verito from one particular offering. It does mean spending about 80,000 rupees higher, but only that much higher. And that car, folks, is right here. Now, it used to be called the Ford Fiesta. Now, of course, you know it's called the Classic, simply just the Classic. It was the Fiesta Classic. They've dropped the Fiesta moniker completely to separate the two cars. And the reason I wanted to put this here is because you, of course, have the new variant, the titanium variant that's been relaunched. And that's in petrol and diesel. We have the diesel titanium with us right now. And it is actually looking pretty attractive because what you get is pretty much a C+ offering in terms of size, shape, attributes, etc. But at prices that are looking a little bit closer to cars like the Verito. And so a much longer wheelbase, a more spacious cabin, and a little bit better perhaps in terms of comfort levels too. Let's take a look at the car from the inside and out.
So it may be dated, but hey, so are some of the others in this class. Ford has essentially replaced the Icon with this offering. The Classic is actually quite compelling since it's got staid yet smart looks. It is roomy, as Siddharth mentioned, and yes, it is also a decent car to drive, with handling and overall road manners pretty acceptable.
Now the thing with the Fiesta, well, I have to correct myself, the Classic has always been that it's had a very satisfactory range of engines, both the 1.6 petrol and the 1.4 diesel. Always felt satisfying, always felt enough and sporty and fun enough too, I have to add. So all of that, of course, instantly comes through because it's the same engine here, even on this diesel titanium that I'm driving today. So before we run you through the specs, I just wanted to make a point of that. And the other thing, of course, is that the interiors, though they do look a little less plush now, I have to say that they still work. They're still fairly adequate. The music system has a bit of a mind of its own, but once you understand how to use it, well then it's pretty functional, including its Bluetooth features too.
If you were to compare these interiors to cars like the City or even the new Gen Fiesta, then sure, they look boring, but the plastic quality is pretty good, and overall it is a fresher, brighter cabin than on the Verito or the Etios, though the Swift Dzire scores on cabin appeal as well. The two engine options on the Classic are also attractive, and the numbers look good, not just on the specs but the prices too, especially the petrol variants. It's similar on the diesel side too. Throw in Ford's claim of over 30 km per litre of efficiency and it's even more enticing. The titanium variants also give you some good features: airbags, ABS, fog lights, electric mirrors, Bluetooth phone, MP3 player connectivity, and a whole lot more. So while it seems like a great proposition on the Mahindra Verito, throw in about 80 grand more and it's an even more enticing proposition with Ford's Classic. Of course, in our opinion, Ford isn't doing enough to push the fact that this car is such a great deal now. So if you're looking for an efficient, no fuss and roomy car but want to stay below the 8 lakh price point, these cars should be on your list for sure, because the refreshed avatar of the Verito and the new positioning of the Classic are certainly looking worth your consideration now, especially as city runabouts or then a second family car.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display, full screen view, faster response time, and Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.